This is Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network.
Welcome to this week's episode of Off Topic with the Scott Brothers. I'm JD.
I'm Drew.
I'm Jonathan.
And we are here to talk about bacon this week and how it affects your sperm count.
It better not. We've also got our resident entertainment and Hollywood reporter, Michelle Mahone, to chat with us about what's classy, classless, and trashy in the world of entertainment this week.
And we'll be talking about distracted driving. Could it possibly be as bad as drunk driving?
Texting while driving, as bad as drunk driving?
I
think so, yeah. But first, we're going to get to some social media responses. We love it when you guys hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or on our website, thescottbrothers.com. And we want you to ask these questions about our topics and tell us some new topics. So, Jonathan, what do you think? What's your first Twitter note?
Everybody was asking about Halloween. They wanted to know exactly what we were doing, what we went out doing. JD, I would say that you probably had maybe the most scandalous of Halloweens.
Well, I did go to the Las Vegas Fetish and Fantasy Ball.
For anybody who doesn't know what a fetish and fantasy ball, I mean, I know it's in my mind what it would be. Tell us.
Okay, there's a lot of costumes. There's tons of people, thousands of people, but it is based around like fetishes. So there's a lot of leather, there's a lot of like flogging and all that kind of stuff.
When you say there are a lot of costumes, do you mean there are a lot of skimpy, barely there costumes?
On men.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, because you know how usually at Halloween it's an excuse. You know, a lot of, young women like to dress up in something that they would never get away with the rest of the year. I have a feeling this is Vegas, it's the Fetish and Fantasy Ball. Guys are doing the same thing there. They're wearing
there was a lot of inappropriate costumes there. And
Get to the point, what were you wearing?
Actually, I didn't know I was going to it, so I didn't have my costume on. But I did have a costume on a few nights before that for a party I went to, and I was Jigsaw from Saw.
Okay.
Creepy. Yeah, I wasn't there, but I saw the photos. It was quite creepy. But I got to say this, what you were talking about, Jonathan, how the women say, I'm going to go really creative for Halloween. I'm going to wear this very cool, like, creative costume. It never is. They'll take something that's creative and they'll turn it into slutty zombie nurse.
And they'll take anything and make it slutty, like slutty marshmallow.
Yeah, as much as I don't mind slutty sometimes, I don't like it at Halloween. It takes all the creativity out of costumes.
That's why I decided to go a little overboard, and after 6 hours of prosthetics and makeup, I transformed into Peter Griffin from Family Guy.
Freaking awesome, I have to say.
It took a lot of work, and I even practiced my voice.
I had to teach Jonathan the voice a little bit. I can do a few of the voices. I'll do it later. I don't want to creep anybody out right now.
I will say this. The best costume I saw at the ball was Mugatu.
Oh, wow.
Zoolander.
That would be awesome.
It was really good.
Now, if it's a fetish ball, did somebody play his little sidekick?
I did not see the sidekick.
Well, here's another question on Twitter. In the spirit of Halloween, have any of you guys ever seen a ghost or a spirit? I know I have. When I was a kid, at least I thought I did.
What was it?
It was actually, we were at the Scouts Hall when we were little kids, and we were playing out the back, Jonathan and myself and a friend, and we were running up this slope, and there was up in the distance, I saw sort of like a smoky kind of I thought it was just a fog or something like that, and then all of a sudden there was like this wolf that was standing there staring at us from the top of the hill, and we were freaking out because of this wolf, and it started running at us. So we turned to run, and we're running away from it. It's catching, it's gaining on us. Then all of a sudden, when I look back, poof, it was gone.
Did you smoke a lot as a kid?
When I was 7 years old?
No, because you also saw the one, remember, when we were in a castle. We were staying at a hostel in Scotland.
Carbisdale Castle.
And I remember Drew and I were in a room, and all of a sudden you said that you woke up in the middle of the night, and you sort of glanced toward the window, and there's an old woman staring in the window, and you freaked out, and you went under the covers. You were freaked out. We woke up the next morning. You'd stayed under your covers. Dad comes in. How did you sleep? And Drew said, well, there was a lady looking in our window, and he laughed it off, and he said, that's impossible. And we look outside. It was about a 4-story drop down to the window. So it was a ghost.
Old Mrs. Smith does like to walk in her sleep. And
the story with that castle, though, is that there were 3 ghosts. There was the old lady, and she was usually seen in the men's washroom. And then there was the Piper ghost who was seen up at the top of the tower. And then there was the owner of the castle's ex-wife. I can't remember where she was seen.
So she's a perv ghost, basically.
Yeah. JD, how about you? Questions?
Yeah. I had an incident years ago, and I actually touched this on my Hot Topic on Facebook a couple weeks ago. When I was a security guard when I was younger, I had to do patrols. And this one house that we would go to each night, we were just supposed to go up to the base of the driveway, make sure everything looked fine, and leave. It was an abandoned house in the town that we grew up in, and it had been empty for something like 35, 40 years. And one night I decided I got some time, so I had the keys. I went into the house, and I was looking around, very old, kind of haunted house-looking place. I don't ever get scared. I walked upstairs into one of the bedrooms and just wandered through, and all of a sudden had this immense feeling of just wrongness, evil wash over me.
Creepy.
I've never ever felt that, and I got out of that house very fast.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
That's probably explains why you're such a weirdo now.
No, there's a lot of
there
reasons
are other
for
reasons.
that, yeah.
Interesting. I don't know what else is going on this week. We talked about Twitter, we talked about Facebook. Actually, something that has been kind of frustrating me, I noticed, because even earlier today we were traveling. I flew in, and I have found that customer service is really starting to lack, and it's starting to tick me off a little bit. But when people, I'm a very approachable person. I'm very friendly, very outgoing. But when I walk up to complete strangers and they just treat you like dirt from the scratch in a customer service position, that frustrates me.
It's very frustrating. Actually, Jonathan and I both just flew in just before the show today, and Jonathan had a question for a customer service agent because they were changing a flight, so he went up and asked, and the lady looked at him and turned and walked away around behind the wall. So Jonathan's waiting, and then he peeks around. She just went and sat down, and she's just looking at something on her phone, and Jonathan says, excuse me, I just had a question for you. She looks at him, stares at him for about 3 seconds, and then just says, what? I mean, what kind of a response is that for...
You got to love it when you're asking someone to do their job and they give you attitude.
Yeah, the best part was, right behind her was a poster saying, we have 80,000 of the friendliest employees.
I know.
Not true.
Not true. What about you guys? Write into us or through thescottbrothers.com or on our Facebook and Twitter pages and tell us what are some of the worst customer service experiences that you've had.
All right, we need to take a quick break, but when we return, we're talking bacon.
And sperm.
And how one affects the other.
Don't forget to hit us up on our social media. I'm Mr. Silver Scott. We've got at Mr. Drew Scott and at Mr. JD Scott. Also, we love hearing from you through our website, thescottbrothers.com. You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
I didn't know that sperm can affect bacon.
This is Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Thanks for coming back to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network. I'm Jonathan.
I'm JD.
And I'm Drew.
And JD is vacant. He's not here right now. I think it's because he's so focused on the fact that we're talking about bacon.
This really does concern me. I'm a big fan of bacon. Everyone knows that.
JD eats like a pound of bacon a day. We always say that. Okay, half a pound.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm in the clear. I don't eat a lot of bacon, but how do you guys feel about your bacon consumption? How do you feel about your bacon sperm count?
Okay, I have cut my bacon eating down in years.
Whoa, I think we need to clarify what the heck we're talking about here.
I was looking at the Huffington Post. There was an article. It was a survey, actually, at Harvard University, 156 men. It was basically seeing how meat was affecting their sperm count, and it's convincing. It makes you want to go off of bacon. I got to tell you that much. But, I mean, what did you guys take from this? To see that this number of men, 156 men from this one survey, were all affected. Their sperm, I don't want to get into details of it, but their count was down. The size and shape of their sperm was
Look,
whacked.
it's not about the size of the shape of it.
Okay, first of all, I don't know why you're singling out bacon, you bacon hater, because it says it's just men who ate processed meat. It didn't matter if it was bacon, ham, sausage, hamburgers, mincemeat, whatever. It just said that men who regularly consume processed meat have a much lower sperm count.
Mm-hmm.
So,
whereas ones that ate fish, like cod and halibut, were improved.
So what if you, like me, you eat a lot of meat, like bacon and burgers and stuff like that, but you also eat a ton of sushi?
Cancels each other out.
It balances out.
Well, I cut out all the bacon. I just eat the sushi, so that makes me a sex machine. That makes me a baby producer.
Well, we'll have to defer to other people for that.
Yeah, I'll make a call and see if that's, if that's accurate.
But do you think that, honestly, it's a study of 156 men. I mean, that's a pretty small group, but do you think there's some validity to this?
Well, obviously, this wasn't a very well-rounded survey because they didn't check the sperm count of women. So
Jonathan doesn't know basic anatomy.
I don't understand.
Well, I can see this because processed meats have preservatives in them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, anytime you're putting preservatives into things, it's going to do something a little funky.
But think of this, though. They're talking just about meat here. How many foods have preservatives? And not that it's the preservatives that are actually affecting the sperm count, but there are a lot of chemicals in all sorts of different foods. Even fresh fruit. A lot of fresh fruit still has steroids in their fruit.
What about this? And just because I'm ignorant, I don't really know. But when I go to the butcher, and you can get your bacon fresh from the butcher, like he cuts it right there, he gives it to you. Do those giant slabs of meat at the butcher already have preservatives in them, or is that actually fresh?
Well, yeah, because it's kept a certain way. In order for it to keep, it has to have preservatives in it, right?
Well, I don't even know. I think that's something we should bring a butcher in to talk to us about.
It's more important if it's kosher.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's prayed over, then you're safe.
Because we actually grew up on a ranch, and our neighbors used to give us bison meat, and it was literally fresh,
delicious,
straight to the butcher. And actually, they say that bison is better for you than regular burger meat.
Yeah, because of the what do you call it?
Because they're
cholesterol
bigger and they kick ass.
It doesn't have bad cholesterol in it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, but again, I'm not an expert, so I'm just saying I'm reading what was in the Huffington Post, and you can find a million surveys, supporting one side or the other when it comes to anything.
So, okay, on the flip side, if you don't want to have kids, should you just be eating a ton of bacon?
Well, that'll happen because, one, you're going to get incredibly fat just eating that much fat.
So you won't get any sex? What are you saying? Well, I don't know. I think that there's something to be said for the fact that you shouldn't overconsume, heavily processed foods of any kind.
Now, what's your thought about this though? Because people are talking, or in this study, they're talking about processed meats, but almost anything out there, you can find a positive and a negative to it. So a lot of people, when they try doing the no-carb diet, they're cutting out carbs because they're so bad they'll store as fat. That was to the extreme, but you need carbs. Your body needs energy. So do you think that you could say this for almost any food out there?
Well, yeah. I follow your lead on this because I try and get all my meat gluten-free.
Yeah, okay. JD, too simple. I mean, that is a good point, though. The gluten thing, a lot of people are jumping on the gluten train, but it's tough because a lot of gluten products are more expensive. But people think just because something's gluten-free, they're good to go. However, they don't realize that some gluten-free products are heavy in fat. So now you're going to actually put on more fat quicker.
I fall victim to that because I was touting a little bit ago that, wow, I've got this healthy snack. It says in here no dairy, no gluten, no this, no that, the other thing. Drew takes the wrapper from me. It was like 10 times the fat of a chocolate bar.
That was a little tiny bar or something.
It was a tiny little. It said on it health snack.
Yeah, health snack. It definitely wasn't because it was fattier than having a burger at McDonald's.
Yeah. So basically, you have to know what you're consuming. And I admit I don't really know. I try to eat healthy when I have options in front of me, one that's really, really bad for me, one that's good. I try and go with the healthier option. I actually feel bad today because we've been traveling all day, and all that's been available at the airport have been like processed sandwiches and fries and burgers. And so right now I feel like I need to do a cleanse.
Jonathan, just tell everybody out there what your philosophy is for healthy eating.
If it tastes good, it must be good for you.
That's awful. Absolutely awful. I'm going to take you back to Drew's Healthy Eating 101.
Yeah, I think sushi's pretty darn good for you, and I eat sushi the most. So
either way, I'm probably going to keep eating bacon with my eggs.
Low sperm count.
I think it's just about moderation. Next, they'll be saying though that Oreos are addictive as cocaine. I don't know.
They can be. They actually can be.
Did you know?
But I thought they already proved that.
Did you know that Oreos don't have any dairy?
I did not know that.
It's true. There's no dairy in Oreos.
I thought that if it's white, it's dairy.
No, but you have to dip your Oreo in milk to make it taste good.
Well, it's chocolate wafers, right? Isn't it? Like what makes the wafers?
It's just sugar in the middle. It's all sugar, carbohydrates, and then you have your cookie.
I don't know. Well, you know what? That study, maybe it was ill-conceived. I'm not sure exactly. And again, they're not 100% conclusive. So I'm going to keep eating my bacon. It's a delicious problem.
Jonathan, you're drooling right now on the desk.
Sorry.
We'll give you a moment to clean that up, Jonathan. We'll return after the break. We'll tell you about one groom and what he did when he forgot to book the venue for his wedding.
Oh.
The best part, that his bride stayed with him after this little stunt.
Oh, so sweet.
Back in a moment with Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
I'd leave him.
You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
We are back with Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network. I'm Drew.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm JD.
And we'd like to share a ridiculous story out of the UK. I cannot believe. So this British guy, he made a hoax bomb threat instead of admitting to his bride that he neglected to book the venue for their wedding.
The most annoying thing is I remember the story and I remember reading it. It came not too long after the Boston Marathon bombings, so of course everybody is going to be on heightened alert.
Yeah.
But it frustrates me when people just cannot be honest. And do you think that as a rational person, if you found out that your significant other had done something so reckless and so crazy, you would stay with that person? Because I could not believe somebody would do that.
But she did.
Be with him. She did. That makes her even dumber than he is.
I honestly, I couldn't believe that. I mean, all the other people were vacated from the building. He left her standing outside the venue. JD?
He's lucky. He only got a year in jail. And
he did go to jail.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He went to jail for a year, and I really think that something that serious should be worse. Like the punishment should be worse for him.
I mean, he said to her that he was embarrassed. He was deeply embarrassed and ashamed. Screw that. You're a loser. She should have dumped his ass and moved on. Like that, I can't believe that a guy would stoop his low to do something like, especially just after the Boston bombing.
And what I think of too is think of this: if something happened where you know maybe because I've heard too where venues get double booked and on the day of the wedding all of a sudden somebody doesn't have a venue, something like that. If something happens and it's a terrible situation, you didn't get the venue booked. Those are the moments where you have this chance to be spontaneous and romantic. And I guarantee you, I could have found somewhere that would have been just as beautiful a setting. I could have convinced somebody, could have done something if I put the effort in, as opposed to being
a park or there's a million different options. But years ago, I used to work for a bank, and there was this policy at the bank that if a bomb threat was phoned in, the bank had to shut down for the rest of the day. And it used to happen about every few months. There would be a bomb threat at this little branch in the middle of nowhere. And I'm pretty sure it was employees that just didn't want to go to work that day. Someone would do it.
Totally.
And this is a very serious thing. Like the police have to come in. You've got the fire trucks have to come in.
So you're wasting all these resources too now. It costs a lot of money.
Thousands.
JD, be honest. Did you do it? Did you pull
I did not do it. I would just call in and say, I'm not coming to work.
Easy way to do it.
But it's true. I've read other articles saying that, there was a house, for example, that burned down and the family was inside and everybody died. And the reason it took the fire department longer to get there was because somebody had called in a bomb threat at a commercial building. So everybody was over there trying to deal with what could be this massive tragedy. So, it's short-term thinking, it's stupidity. And
it's wasting resources.
It is. I think that's why they need to throw the book at these people and teach them that
set an example.
You can't do it.
No, exactly. Okay, well, you guys be honest with me. What's something... Maybe not that bad, but what's one of the worst things that you've done? Maybe even as a teenager, something like this.
Well, so Drew, you were with me when I did this one. I remember we used to be in karate and as kids, and I remember one time I was at the karate dojo and the phone was sitting there and no adults were around. I was just waiting, and I thought to myself, I'm like, what happens when you call 911? And so I picked up the phone and I just pressed 911 and I waited, and then a voice came on. Police, fire, ambulance. And I didn't know what to do. And, of course, I was only like 5 at the time. And I was like, police! And I hung up. And I didn't know what to do. And I thought, this is it. They'll never know. Boom, the phone rang back right away and started ringing. And I was like, it was the operator calling back. And sure enough, Dad walked in right as that happened and picked up the phone and found out everything that was going on and told them it was a hoax. I tell you, I was in so much trouble. And that was the last time I ever did something like that.
Well, we actually did another dumb thing as teenagers, and this was actually Jonathan and I trying to play a prank on a friend's parents. And so this was really silly of us, but what we actually did, so this friend of ours...
Well, hold on. You got to get. It's a little bit different. You got to get the story straight first.
This is fantastic.
This one friend, she used to always brag about how she was going to be so much richer than all of us. She was going to be she's going to win the lottery. She's going to leave us all behind. Blah blah blah. And so we decked out a van. We rented a white van, decked it out as the publishers clearinghouse winner van, whatever. Phoned her and said, hey, you've won. This is exciting. We're going to come down.
Pretended to be the radio station or the clearance house, yeah.
And so we were going to pull up and be like, treat us better, whatever. We were just going to stick it back to her. We didn't realize she had called all her family from hundreds of miles around. When we pulled up on the street, we could see there was this mob of 100 people there all around.
There was news vans and everything as well.
So we pulled up, and then all we did was we took off out of there.
So to get out of it, did you call in a bomb threat?
Maybe that's what we should have. It was bad. I felt bad after the fact because we thought it was just going to be pulling a prank on her and getting her back.
She was still a jerk after.
Yeah, she was.
I mean, the long and short of all this is probably be honest with people, tell the truth,
deal with the concern, and find a way through it.
Well, and if you've made a mistake, man up. Own up to the fact that you forgot to book a venue or you did something wrong, and I'm sure they will appreciate that more than you.
Have you dealt with a bridezilla?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So I would fear the bridezilla. However, no, I agree. I think for me, I like it when somebody respects me enough to tell the truth. And how embarrassing is it after for all the family? Because that's what people are usually afraid of at a wedding. They're usually afraid of all the family finding out that it's being called off, or all the family thinking, something bad. How embarrassing is it when you have to go to prison for a year and your family has to read about that?
He'll call a bomb threat into the prison, and then he'll be out.
It's just always best to think of the consequences before you do a cover-up of the sort of thing. And when you're being honest with someone, even like your girlfriend, and they ask you, do I look fat in this? You know what? I'm the sort of person that I am honest. I will tell you how you look in that, and that's important.
But you also think of a nice way to say it.
Yeah,
too.
you don't have to be mean.
I just say that's fat. No, but when we come back, we're talking about distracted drivers. Is that actually as serious as drunk driving?
Yeah, well, it's becoming increasingly prevalent that, more accidents are happening because of distracted driving and anything else that takes your mind away, even just for a second. So when we come back, we'll give you the details on that.
And hit us up on our social media. I'm at Mr. Drew Scott, JD is at Mr. JD Scott, and Jonathan is at Mr. Silver Scott. We want you to tell us what you've done to get out of a sticky situation. We'll be right back with Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Back on Off Topic with the Scott Brothers, and we're talking about distracted driving. It's a 21st century problem that's causing more accidents on the roads than drunk driving.
Yeah, what's sad is the fact that people are coherent, they're texting and they're driving, but they're choosing to ignore the fact that it's illegal to drive while you have a handheld device. And even worse, you see a lot of them, they're swerving around. I was driving behind a trucker the other day, and he was swerving. I thought this guy was drunk for sure. When I finally pulled up next to him, I could see, he was taking pictures. He was taking selfie pictures of himself while he was driving.
Oh, so you've never Snapchatted while you were driving?
I have at a stoplight, and my new philosophy actually is, because I watched a documentary not too long ago, and I completely agree with everything that is said on there, and the campaign that they have going on right now, that it's just, it can wait. I completely agree, because there is no sense, and you have to admit, of all of us, I am probably the safest driver. I completely agree that the device should stay down, unless you have the hands-free that comes on when you ring in through your Bluetooth, the device stays down.
Hey, are you trying to say that JD and I are unsafe drivers?
No,
because
you're the one who will do a last-minute 4-lane change to catch an exit, and I'll just go to the next exit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do it safely, though. I don't cut anybody off. So what
Drew
we're
works
talking
with his friend Siri.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Siri's my best friend, and then I have my Bluetooth on my car. But so what we're talking about here, though, we've seen a couple of stats, and I saw this on McLean's actually, and it's talking about how texting when you're driving is actually just as bad as drunk driving. So the Canadian Automobile Association claims that texting drivers are 23% more likely to be in an accident than drivers who are paying attention. I mean, that's a pretty high percentage.
No, it's true, because I actually know somebody a couple years ago who they flipped their brand new car and rolled it down the street, and it was just because she was trying to send a text.
Yeah. Well, was the text really worth it?
It better been.
I saw a commercial the other day, and it was a real kid who was actually in there, and I guess he was texting his girlfriend to say I love you, took his eye off the road for a minute, crashed into another car, killed a woman and her baby in the other car because he was trying to send something. Now, really, was it worth it to say one thing?
Well, that's exactly it. With teenage drivers. A part of this study was saying that the Cone Children's Medical Center in New York, their study actually shows that texting while driving with teenagers or teenagers who are driving and texting, that's the number one cause of death on the road amongst teenagers.
Well, it's because they're inexperienced drivers as it is. I'm not saying that somebody who's an experienced driver can get away with it more, but inexperienced drivers, kids, they really need to focus on the road because they're not even comfortable enough in their skin and driving a car, let alone throw in a distraction like texting.
Well, also, I think that when you're young like that, you don't understand the consequences. You think that everything will be perfect and that you're a great driver, but one of the other stats was drivers under 25 are 2 to 3 times more likely to text and drive and get into an accident.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I think, I watched another thing online. It was somebody defending it, saying that it does not distract you, that if you are responsible, that you can do. And it drives me batty because I know even if I'm taking my eye off the road for a minute to look at the GPS on my car, like my car has the built-in GPS, I'm taking my eye off the road to look down at the GPS to see what it's telling me to do, and you have to look back. So there's no two ways about it. It is distracting to be looking down.
It's going to be like the Star Trek monitors when they're in their spaceships, where all your digital, all your anything you have to look at, it's not going to take you off your windshield. Everything's going to be up there in front of you. I like the idea of something like that.
Well, it's not even just texting, though, because I ride a motorcycle, and I got in a situation a while ago where I was nearly hit by this woman who was just driving very erratically, and it turned out when I pulled up next to her, she wasn't texting, she was reading a book, an actual paperback book, as she drove on the freeway.
I've seen that. I cannot believe, and you know what? That's when you see the guy going down the street, cycling down the street with no hands on the bike. He's got two hands on a book reading. He's just trying to look cool. Like, that lady, really, can you not...
let's say that has never looked cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's never looked cool. But actually, drunk driving is supposedly at an all-time low. So I guess people are realizing that drunk driving is a very big concern, and the numbers have gone down. Actually, one of the studies said that annually... 500. It's gone down 500 deaths from the previous year.
I think that has been more than made up for all the accidents that are caused by other distractions. And it's not just using your cell. It's also eating, drinking, like what you guys were
putting on makeup.
Reading. I saw that. Yeah. I saw a woman on the highway at full speed with her visor down. I don't even know how she was. I honestly think she was looking between the gap above her mirror and the roof of the car.
Well, I saw the woman. I don't even know what the thing's called when you're like. Curling your
eyelash curler.
Yeah, eyelash curler. She was doing that on her eye while she was driving. That means your eye has to pretty well be closed. Like, that's ridiculous. That you would try and get away with that.
That's probably one of the easier things to do while you're driving. But
don't justify.
Putting on makeup is not an easy thing to start with. So it takes a lot of concentration, funny facial expressions, but you should not be doing anything that requires that much concentration.
So then how do you get that across to people, especially young people? How do you get that across? Because honestly, I don't feel like the sad commercials work. I see the sad commercials that are on there, and I don't think that kids are paying attention to that. I don't think they want to pay attention. So how do you get through to youth to tell them it's a bad idea?
It's tough. I mean, I think it's important. You have to make texting and driving synonymous with drinking and driving. People have to see it as the same big threat. MAD should be changed to Mothers Against Distracted Driving, not drunk driving.
That's actually a good idea.
I kind of feel like, it is going to evolve. It's going to evolve into many different things. It's not even just a matter of telling people that it's wrong. I think until it affects somebody, like somebody who was in an accident.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people really think, well, this could happen to me.
Well, it's like in schools, the bullying campaigns nowadays are actually getting through to youth. I think it's really great. They need to find a way to actually get a campaign about texting and driving or distracted driving.
At the end of the day, I think it's a personal choice. You have to decide that you are not going to text and drive, just like you decide you're not going to, drink and drive.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people, if you just say it's up to you yourself, they're not going to do it. That's why we have so many problems in so many different areas. Enforcing harsher punishments may only target certain people, but I still think that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think education in this regard is really, going to be what comes through and affects students, especially high school students, because again, they're new to driving, so they just need to understand how serious texting and driving is. So maybe it's in the school system they have to teach it.
We're going to shift gears onto something a little lighter. We'll be joined by our resident entertainment and Hollywood reporter, Michelle Mahone, to talk about classy, classless, and trashy of the entertainment world. Stay tuned to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Now back to Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network.
If you're not sick of us yet, we are back with more Off Topic with the Scott Brothers, and we've got Michelle Mahone joining us. She's our resident entertainment and Hollywood reporter.
Well, this week we're doing a new segment called Classy, Classless, and Trashy. Michelle is here to talk to us about the best and worst moments in celebrity entertainment gossip in the celebrity entertainment world over the past couple of weeks.
So what do you have for us today, Michelle?
Okay, we got us some classy. Can we just go to London to the royal family, please? I love these people. I want to be friends with her, but something about I'm an entertainment reporter puts me out of it. I don't understand that. But anywho, they christened Gorgeous George, their baby. It was so amazing. Instead of inviting 500 people they never met, They had 23 people there, you guys. 23. Just the closest of friends. The family photos were amazing. They truly looked like family photos. They are just happy and gorgeous and classy, and I love them.
I like that too, and I like the fact too that also I'd read that they had named the godparents of the baby, and it wasn't like the Duke of Cambridge, or I don't even know who it would be, but it was actually like the college buddies and like her longtime girlfriend, stuff like that. It wasn't who people expected it was going to be.
Exactly. It was real people. So this baby is going to be one day the King of England, but he's going to be much like Prince William. You know, he's royalty, but he gets it. He's a down-to-earth, regular guy. And, you know, doesn't get better than that.
And I think it's pretty awesome that they only had 23 people at the ceremony. I mean, you would think it's royalty. They're going to go lavish. They're going to spend all this ridiculous money.
And times are tough, Drew. Everybody's got to tighten.
Even the royals have to cut back
a little bit. I don't think that's. I think they really are trying to change the image of the royal family, and they're trying to show that we're everyday people as well, and we have the same concerns. So I like that. Why don't you tell us about something classless?
Okay, here we go.
I already know whose name you're going to say.
Anyone? Kanye West?
Yeah.
You don't even really need to say anything after that. Like.
Okay. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum from the royal christening, they got engaged. Okay. Now, I don't have a problem with him paying $200,000 to rent out a baseball field. If you got the money, go for it. The 50-piece orchestra, hey, who doesn't like music? The big marquee blazing, will you marry me? Knock yourself out. But when you show a picture of your 15-carat engagement ring under the banner and you're tweeting it for all the world, see, that just makes women like me do a little Google search and discover that her ex-husband, he bought her a bigger ring. Ouch, Kanye, nice try, but you missed it by that much.
And also, her ex bought her a bigger ring from the same jeweler, so that's even probably a no-no.
You know, who says lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice? They are just gross. Can I say fame whore or not really?
Maybe he gets a discount. You know?
Yeah, it could be. You know, if she buys off 2 diamonds, she gets 1 free or something.
This was my favorite part. You know, she was only married to Chris Humphrey 72 days, and the divorce drug on for ages. Kim went to the judge and said, I'm loosely quoting, please just grant the divorce because I don't want to have Kanye's baby while I'm married to somebody else. That does put a hitch in your giddy up, doesn't it?
Isn't that something, straight out of a Nicholas Sparks novel? You know, it's so romantic to say, just get this divorce over with so I can have someone else's baby.
So what's worse?
Nobody can call me country. All right?
Yeah. Well, what do you think's worse, though, the classless or the trashy? Tell us some trashy.
Okay, women like this give me a rash. We all love John Cryer from 2.5 Men. He's the good one. Okay, his ex-wife, she only had 4% custody of their 13-year-old son. He recently offered her 50% custody, so what's she doing? She would be taking him to court. He was paying her only $8,000 a month. Who can live on that?
Oh, that's terrible.
She needs $88,969 a month because her son goes to this lavish private school and his friends take summer and winter trips to Europe and Thailand. You guys, he can't go. They have big lavish parties and birthday parties and he can't afford it and he's being ostracized at his school and John needs to pay up because, you know, she's an out-of-work British actress and, you know, she can't buy the trinkets.
Well, I mean, I believe that is considered the poverty line in America, $88,000 a month.
Oh, yes, I think you're right.
Ouch.
That's terrible. I mean,
I only make like $80,000 a month, but I clip coupons and I get bought.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but I've seen that a few times in Hollywood where people are using the children as a bargaining chip just for getting more alimony, just getting some more money so they can go spend it at the plastic surgeon.
Well, what they need to understand is the children's friends can read. Okay, if I'm reading this, they read it too, and it's hurting the kids, and it's just nauseating. You know what? Here's a thought, and maybe I'm crazy. Get a job, heifer. How about you get a job?
A job?
How do you really feel about this?
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating to me because, when I look and see what is making news, some days I just shake my head because a lot of this is so frustrating. Not just like looking here at what's trashy and what's classic, but just stuff that's making news. It's not interesting to me. I like it when I see human interest stories, or when I see that somebody does a selfless act, or they do something that, just really sort of raises my spirits. So when I read stuff about this and people bickering over $88,000 a month in living expenses, it really frustrates me.
Well, I actually saw a couple of weeks ago, there was a tsunami overseas. There was zero coverage. There was no coverage. And when I looked in the news on that day, literally all I saw was Kanye. I saw all this Hollywood gossip, and there was nothing about a disaster.
Are you guys
that.
afraid to say anything bad about Kanye because you think that he'll go on a talk show, or he'll go on a tweeting rant?
Well, no, because I will immediately bring in children to reenact the whole thing.
So. He will end you two if you make fun of him, because I wear my leather workout pants, so he loves me.
Well, as they say,
if you guys do that, I'll play Kim. I've got pillows on the ready.
As they say, with great money comes great ass hattery. This was definitely a trashy move, and I don't like to hear about this sort of thing. It gives people a bad name and gives me the no-no feeling.
Yeah, exactly. You don't use your kids like that.
Yeah, but thanks for joining us, Michelle. That was great.
We got to take a short break, but when we return, we're going to ask you what you would rather give up for a month. It's going to be hard because you're not going to want to give up any of these things. You can always send us your classy, classless, or trashy entertainment stories via Twitter or Facebook. I'm at Mr. Drew Scott, Jonathan's at Mr. Silver Scott, and JD is at Mr. JD Scott, or at thescottbrothers.com. You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Welcome back to the last segment of Off Topic with the Scott Brothers. I'm Drew.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm JD.
And for this week, we're going to try to play a little game, a little something different. I actually do this all the time with my friends, and I want to do it on the show here. It's Would You Rather. You guys have played Would You Rather, right?
Oh, yeah. This is a fun segment because you get to learn a little bit more about us and what we couldn't live without.
So this is an interesting one. Are you guys ready? We want to find out, would you rather give up alcohol, sex, or your cell phone? And let's say you had to give it up for an entire month. So, JD, you're first.
Okay. So I had to give up one of these. This is actually fairly easy for me. I do like to have a drink once in a while, but I could give up alcohol. I would not want to give up sex or the cell phone, and those two things are kind of tied together at times.
You have sex with your cell phone?
I might.
That I don't even want to picture that. So for me,
it's too late. I just sent you pictures of that.
Oh man. For me, one of these. I spend time with this late at night. It's a big part of my life. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about my cell phone.
And you're making fun of me, right?
Yeah, I can't live without my cell phone. Sex is very important as well. I think it's an easy thing for me. Alcohol.
You all heard it. You all heard it right here.
Yes. I would never have sex before marriage.
Are you a sexaholic?
I'm a cellaholic.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, honestly, I'm not a big drinker. I only have a drink every couple of weeks, something like that. So it's social for me. I could easily give alcohol up.
So both of you guys are both alcohol. You could give up alcohol?
Yeah.
That's what I choose.
Interesting.
Come on, alcoholic.
I'm going to make this game. Oh, I'm also alcohol, by the way, so that's easy for me. I'm going to take this game a step further. It's would you rather, and you have to give up two of these items. So if you had to give up two of alcohol, sex, or your cell phone, what would be the next one?
All right. I can do this. I would give up the cell phone, even though it was such an integrated part of my life. But I remember back before we had cell phones, and
life sucked.
I enjoyed having sex back then. So,
hey, is my girlfriend around right now?
Yes, she's right behind you.
I would definitely keep sex. Honestly, obviously sex is a great part of a relationship, but my cell phone. How can I live? Can I get a tablet? What if I get rid of my cell phone? I'll get a tablet.
No mobile device.
Oh, man. You know what? I think I would have to say alcohol, and I can pleasure in other ways without sex, right? So I can give up sex, right? There are other things I can do that aren't
Don't beat
sex.
around the bush. I so know you would give up sex.
Yeah, I would keep my cell phone. I would keep my cell phone.
Drew is the aficionado of business. He could not live without his cell phone. So, yeah, for me...
I love you, Linda.
For me, I would have to say I do also enjoy my cell phone and everything, but I have found those moments when, and I've started doing this like when I go out with friends or if I'm on a date, something like that, I intentionally put the cell phone away and I don't even think about it. And I enjoy it. I like it. I like getting rid of the cell phone. So if I absolutely had to, I would give up my cell phone next.
And you know what I've done a little bit lately is if I go on a vacation for a few days, I will try and put my cell phone away, not use it for 2 or 3 days.
It hurts.
It does
first,
hurt, but it's good. It feels good.
I think that this could actually be a little trial thing. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should try to give up 1 or 2 of these things for a week.
I'd say 1. Let's go with 1. Let's give up 1 for a week. I can do that.
Yeah,
alcohol.
So what if I change? Wait, what if I take alcohol off the list? And what if I said something like sushi?
The gym.
No, if it said sushi, you had to give up sushi for a month. Think it. Sushi, your cell phone, or sex.
For a month?
For a month.
Love you, Linda. Sex. I'm joking.
I don't think you are.
All right, Jonathan. What if you had to give up your dogs? What if it was dogs, cell phone, or sex?
Just for a month?
Forever.
Nice try. You're changing the rules. No, I've gone away on vacation. I went on vacation for a month, and my dogs, I love them, and I spend a lot of time with them. But they love getting away from me. They think it's like a vacation when their aunt comes.
Oh, it's not just your dogs that feel that way.
All right, here's what we should do. Let's have the fans write in about what they think we should try and give up, and we'll compile all those requests, and we'll do that.
Yeah, and I want to do this segment fairly regularly, so we should have people message in different would you rather scenarios, and then what they would never want to give up. I'm interested to hear that.
Can I just throw one other would you rather in there?
Uh-huh.
All right, here's one that I actually saw. This is what a friend said to me the other day, and it was very disturbing. Would you rather catch your parents having sex, or have your parents catch you having sex?
Well, my parents have caught me having sex a
and
couple
how
times.
Awkward was that?
Awkward, but I'd rather that than me catching them. So.
Jonathan?
I think, we've had a lot of good discussion this week. And we should
see my answers on social media.
That is it for this week. And next week, we're going to be talking about unpaid internships. Are they worth it? And all the energy that you put into them.
Yeah, and we'll be speaking with a food expert on food trends.
And magic is in the air when we talk to Canadian-born, Vegas-based magician Murray Sawchuk.
Thanks for tuning in today. Have a great week, and we'll chat with you again shortly. You've been listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
You've been listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network. Want more of the Scotts? Check them out on TV. Catch the Property Brothers and Buying and Selling on W, a Corus Entertainment company.